Good evening and welcome to the Windy Fire Informational Community Meeting for Sunday, October 3rd. My name is Nathan Judy, Information Officer for California Interagency Incident Management Team 5. This evening you'll be hearing from members of the Sequoia National Forest, Tulare County, and California Interagency Incident Management Team 5. After the formal briefing, we will take questions submitted online earlier and one submitted this evening. We want to recognize the Tule River Tribe Council Chairman, William Garford, Bureau of Indian Affairs, Nate Gonya. Available for questions this evening is Tulare County Sheriff's Department Sergeant Randy Gunderman. Current situation on the fire is 94,032 acres and now 65% contained. 2,106 personnel, that includes 47 hand crews, 112 engines, 14 dozers, 17 helicopters, and 13 water tenders. To kick us off this evening, we have Teresa Benson, Forest Supervisor for the Sequoia National Forest.
Good evening, everyone. Teresa Benson, the Forest Supervisor for the Sequoia National Forest. And I want to start out by saying how happy I am to see that we are at 65% contained. We've been working on this firefight now for 3.5 weeks, and the great work Team 5 has done for us has really shown with this containment going up, and they've just been terrific to work with. Just really working hard with all of our partners to bring this together and get us to the full containment on this fire. I wanted to share with you what we've been able to start working on with regards to the assessment of our sequoia groves that have been affected by the Windy Fire. We haven't gotten to talk a whole lot about this to date, but I just wanted to give you a real brief snapshot because this is the Giant Sequoia National Monument. And you'll see on the map here that we actually have the groves pointed out on the map that have been affected by the Windy Fire. They've got the green around them. So the groves there's 11 groves that have been affected by the Windy Fire. And right now we don't know what the impacts to each grove is yet, but we're in the process of assessing that. And we also have a Sequoia task force that's been assigned under the fire operations to do what we're calling Sequoia first aid. We have a giant Sequoia specialist here from Yosemite National Park that's leading that up, Garrett Dickman. And we're gaining information every day on the groves and the effects. So what I wanted to share with you is that information will be starting to become available in the coming days. I just want to thank you also for your kindness and your patience during this fire. We really appreciate the kind words that you've been sharing about the firefighters. You know, folks have been coming here from all over the country. We have all of our local firefighters, but we have a lot of people who have come to help us from many places across the country and just have really appreciated what you've been sharing about your thankfulness and gratitude to them. For our firefighters, our law enforcement, our first responders, the great job with air support that we've had. And so thank you to all of the folks that have been supporting us through this almost 4 weeks of a firefight.
Great, thank you, Teresa. Up next, we're going to bring our operational section chief up, Ernie Villa.
And good evening, everybody. Ernie Villa, a planning ops trainee here with California Incident Management Team 5. So I'll give you a quick update where we're at now. Everything here along the Western Divide Highway, head north and then south behind Ponderosa here, everything's looking good. We continue to mop up and secure in this area to strengthen the line. Coming back into the Lloyd Road here, everything's holding well, and we continue to tactical patrol that area coming all the way back into Camp Whitsitt here. As you come back in towards Johnsondale and the Mountain 99 corridor here, everything's looking really good. We continue to mop up and find some heat sources interior of the fire, but everything along the line's looking real well. From the back end of Johnsondale here, heading south, the crews were able to make pretty good progress coming out towards Spees Ridge. And then from where they ended there, the terrain in this section here is we won't be able to get in there due to the terrain. Down here near Tobias Creek and in Ant Canyon, we still had some fire activity. We were able to utilize the retardant base that's positioned here out of Fairview, and we were able to put multiple drops on a short turnaround to cool those areas off. We have crews looking at the trail system that parallels the Kern River here on the Whiskey Flat Trail. They'll continue to look at that as an option to continue to prep for possible containment feature in the future. Coming further down to the south near Baker Point, the hand crews looked at the potential to go a little bit more direct here, and they're hitting a spot here near Baker Peak where the ground gets pretty unfavorable for them. They'll continue to work aircraft in that area there. Hopefully we'll still continue to have good air through tomorrow. And then coming along the southern edge of the fire here, we still have good containment on all the spot fires that spotted out into the Cedar Fire. And then we had containment along this line. We'll continue to tactical patrol in that area. Coming over here in this open section of line here near Sugarloaf Village, we continue to mop up and secure. This fire's actually up on the slope here. It's a little bit tougher ground for them to work in, so they'll continue to work on this and gain containment over the next few days. Coming into the back end here of Sugarloaf along the 16 road, everything is still holding pretty well. They'll continue to mop up and secure in this area for the next few days. And as they come out over in this section here, we did have a piece of fire that slopped over our line, and they were able to get in there with aircraft today too and get line back around that. They probably have another day or so through tonight, and tomorrow they'll continue to mop up, and we should be able to show some more containment here in the next day or so. As we continue along the line here, everything's looking well. We continue to mop up and secure, coming to the back end of Hot Springs and around. And then in between Mountain 50 Road here where we had direct hand line, everything's holding well. We'll continue to mop up and secure. As we come out a little bit further, we did have direct hand line that came out here towards Mary's Creek and Cold Springs Creek. And then pretty much from the end of this black line here, this piece of ground right here, we're pretty much don't have an option to go direct anymore. We will have a new division coming out here that'll be looking at the indirect dozer lines back into Lone Pine Mountain here. So they'll be looking at that for a day or so, getting their feet on the ground, getting intel for what they're working with, and then we'll be developing a firing plan to potentially back that fire down towards our containment lines. Over here on the Thule here, we started aerial ignitions yesterday, and we got the fire backing in a backing motion coming down the ridge lines. And then they started a hand firing operation right here where there's a dozer line that comes back into the road system here. So they started that this evening or today and through the evening, and that will continue to back into the road systems. We'll use the drone out here tomorrow to try to encourage that fire to keep it even in a backing position, and it'll continue to back into the containment features that we've identified out here indirect. Coming back along the main edge here, everything's holding very well. We'll continue to mop up and secure this whole edge back into the 212 road, and then everything coming up the dozer line back into the 2 1/4 road all the way back up to the top here is looking really well. We'll continue to mop up and secure, and then up in this corner here we have a little bit of a heat signature. It's going to be adjacent to the dozer line and then right along the burn scar from the Castle fire. So we will keep eyes on that. This section in here is pretty much patrolled by aircraft and vantage points, and then it comes back into the western divide. Other than that, that'll end the report.
Great, thank you, Ernie. Appreciate that. We really want to thank Ernie for all the hard work he's been doing. Everyone's really been appreciative of the updates he's been giving every morning on Facebook, so I just want to give him a big thank you for that. Next up is our incident meteorologist, PHILOMON GEERTSON.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is PHILOMON GEERTSON, and I am an incident meteorologist trainee with the National Weather Service assigned here to the Windy Fire. And just in case you're wondering, what is an incident meteorologist? We are a specially trained group of meteorologists that goes out with incident management teams to provide highly detailed, specific forecasts for the situation they're dealing with, whether it be a wildfire or some other natural or man-made disaster. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and talk about the weather. We've had a strong area of high pressure over us for the last several days, and that's resulted in very warm and dry conditions across our area. And the winds have generally been light as well, and that's resulted in a lot of that smoke just hanging around. Relative humidities have been very low, both during the day and at night. We've been seeing humidities down to around 5 to 15% during the day, and only recovering into the teens and 20s at night, and that is very low. So as we look ahead, we're going to start seeing this high pressure ridge gradually breaking down. We'll have a disturbance passing through Southern California tomorrow, and as that occurs, we'll see more clouds and moving over our area, and that will keep us a little cooler. It'll keep our humidities a little higher, so that's the start of a trend that will continue as we head into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We'll see that ridge continuing to gradually break down, and we'll see moistening and cooling of the air mass. And then as we head into Thursday night and Friday, we actually have a fairly strong cold front coming through, and that will bring us the potential for at least some light rain across portions of the fire. So wind-wise, the winds aren't looking too strong early in the week, but as that cold front comes in, we'll see those winds increasing. Now the cooling temperatures and the rising humidities should offset any effects of the wind. But the good thing about that wind coming up, especially by Thursday into Friday, is that it will help to clean out that smoke that's lingering over our area. That's it for weather.
Great, thank you, Philemon. I really appreciate that. Next up, we're going to have our fire behavior analyst with Jeff Shelton.
Good evening, Jeff Shelton, Team 5 Fire Behavior. So my job with the team is to inform our operations on the best tactics and strategy based on fire behavior, the intensity and the speed that the fire will be covering. So that's what we're going to talk about this evening. The current heat profile, as we're looking at the fire, these areas that you see in red are the areas that are kind of persistent and pushing back on us a little bit as we try to gain containment in these areas. The fire, remains fuels driven, which means that the fire is continually moving through a heavy fuel bed, and that's what's continuing this fire day and night throughout the last 3.5 weeks. The fuels that the fire has available to it are all sizes, from the grass all the way to the timber. But what it's really taken advantage of is the bug kill that's been in this area. There's a lot of standing dead. There's also a lot of dead material on the ground. And it's predominantly really where the fire footprint is, because what has kind of helped this fire stall out on the south side, on the east side, and the north side are some fire footprints in the last 5 to 10 years. You have the Cedar fire, the McNally fire was 2002, but the fuels are vastly changed. The Castle fire, the Pier, and so those fires really have kind of helped remove some of the potential out of the fire. But this fire has just followed this long stringer, this belt of really heavy material that has very little fire history in it. The fire, because it's been sitting in a position where we've had this consistently dry air day and night for several days, is burning really 24/7. It's not taking a break. Normally at night we get a little higher relative humidity recovery, and then the fire slows down. But in the last several days that we haven't seen that. Everything that is on fire is staying on fire and consuming. And that's one of the reasons why you're having all this smoke production, is that the fire's working 24/7. So as we look at where the fire is now and where our strategy and tactics are, the whole thing with a fuels-driven fire is we would need to remove that stored energy from the landscape. And we can do that several different ways. We can build fire line, which the fire comes up to that line, it starves of fire, and then from energy, and then it goes out. The other way we can do is we can place fire tactically and remove that energy in front of the fire and do that effectively. And that's what we're doing, kind of a combination of those strategies. We're trying to go direct where we can, indirect where possible, just because the terrain, the fuel loading just don't allow us to get up and do what we would do in these areas. If you're wondering why can't we just go direct here, the terrain is just inhospitable. The amount of energy that's sitting on the ground there isn't possible for us to employ that. So in the areas that you see here, and you talk about dozer line and how it's out here, that fire is going to move to an area where the fuels are much more favorable. A lot of it's been grazed out from the cattle, and so once it gets to that area, then we'll be able to pick it up rather easily. And so using fire in a managed way, that we back the fire down incrementally. And you heard operations talk about using a drone. We actually have a drone that can drop these small little balls that then release a little flame from them, and we could do that super precisely because it's controlled from something as simple as an iPad or a computer, and we can place fire exactly where we want to be really light on the land as we go through that. So as we're employing some direct and indirect strategies, you can expect to see this black line slowly increase, but we still have another day or so of really dry weather. So you can expect to see more smoke as we continue to try to just pinch this fire off and hopefully bring some sense of normalcy back to you in the next couple days. As for a seasonal position, like when is this fire season going to end? From all the indices that we look at, all the statistics, the fire usually season in this area peaks off right about mid-September, but it's not a rapid decline, it's a slow decline. And so eventually we'll have things what we call season slowing events, where you'll have some rain, maybe a splash of snow at the higher elevations, and then that'll kind of take some energy out of it, and then you'll have what they call a season ending event. And those are the type of weather phenomena that we're hoping to see in the next week. This, I will think, will be a good season slowing event, but I don't think we're done quite yet until the larger fuels, which we had about a third of the precipitation we normally have this last winter, they get some real heavy soaking that they're not available to burn anymore. So thank you for your attention. If you have questions and they're not going to be answered tonight, get them to our PIO and I'll answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Next up, we're going to bring our Air Resource Advisor with Linda Chappell. Linda?
Thank you. Hi, I'm Linda Chappell. I'm the Air Resource Advisor here on the Windy Fire. And what my main job is working to help the public understand the impacts of smoke and what they can do to limit that impacts of smoke that they have. Obviously, smoke is a regular part of this part of the world. And so the last few days, as you've noticed, we've had increased amounts of smoke. Well, the expected weather over time may limit that, but in the short term, maybe not quite so much. So who's most susceptible to this smoke that we're experiencing? Well, mostly seniors, children because of their increased respiratory rates, pregnant women, and people with health challenges like a heart or lung disease, COPD, or asthma. So really, what can you do to limit these smoke impacts that will help you and your family? And what's recommended is close your windows, close your doors, use your air conditioner if you have one. If you can remain indoors as much as possible, that's the biggest recommendation. Create a clean room if you can, a small room that doesn't have cooking or other particulates that would be introduced to that area, and put a small air purifier in there. And if you can spend some time there, that will help offset the impacts of the smoke that you've experienced. If you are working outdoors, we recommend an N95 mask. They have the ability to limit that particulates for you, whereas a cloth mask is just, the holes are too big to limit that particulate coming out of smoke. So something that goes on, and if you need the information, we publish a daily smoke outlook in both English and Spanish, and those are on the California Smoke blog every day. And also, if you want further information, you can look at fire.airnews.com now.gov. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Linda. Appreciate that. Next up, we're going to have Tulare County Fire Chief Charlie Norman. Charlie? Chief Norman. There you go.
Thank you, Nate. Good evening, everybody. Just a brief update on behalf of Tulare County. First and foremost, I'd like to thank all of my Tulare County firefighters. They've been in this since September 9th on all of our incidents and just been doing a great job. And a lot of times what we don't realize when we handle these big campaign fires is we still run an annual call volume of about 15,000 calls a year. So in addition to these two large incidents, we still have a lot of call volume at home. Our number one priority is to serve you. Again, and a shout out as Teresa to reiterate what Teresa said, just thank you to all our local cooperators as well as our state and federal cooperators. Great news, Chief Riggi and I, my division chief, we went up and drove some of the area around Hot Springs today, and we have very good containment. I'm very confident in repopulating the areas of Pine Flat and California Hot Springs, and that will be at noon tomorrow. Noon. So just wanted to reiterate that since in my earlier error the other day. So all the power's on up there. It's great. So we'll get you back home as soon as possible. With that being said, as you go up, we will have the fire station open. They will have Red Cross there. All our personnel will be there to serve you. HHSA, our Health and Human Services staff, for supplies or anything that you may need will be at the station. And the number at the station is 661-548-6664. As you get home in the Hot Springs area, Pine Flat area, you're probably going to see wisps of smoke. You're going to see embers off in the distance. I feel very confident within driving that today that those are well inside the black. They're well inside our containment lines, so you can feel very safe in what you're doing. If you have a concern, obviously call 911 and we'll have the local fire station go out and check it out and make sure just that everybody's safe and secure. But I feel very secure with that. And as far as additional info, you have the Tulare County Fire Department website, the Sheriff's Office website, our Health and Human Services website, as well as the county website. With some of the structure loss, I know I've been on the phone with many of you that have lost structures, and we are very sorry, and we've worked as hard as we could to prevent the loss of those structures. And you just have my word that we really gave it all, and we continue to give that in addition to the K&P fire. We will get you back into those as soon as it is safely to do so. I don't want to be vague and ambiguous, but I mean, my hope would be to get you in there within the next week, but I really don't want to put a definitive timeline on that just because we don't have extra containment around that. We do have a damage assessment hotline, 559-802-9790. And I want to thank you for adhering to our evacuation orders and evacuation warnings. It's much appreciated. Our primary mission is just to keep you safe. If there's anything we can do for you, you have all my contact information. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Norman. Really appreciate that. Next up from from Tulare County Human Health and Services, we have Director Anita Ortiz.
All right. Good evening. Make sure this is on. Hopefully it is. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me again this evening. Anita Ortiz, overseeing care and shelter for the Windy Fire. And thank you, Chief, for the update. We're going to continue to have our temporary evacuation point open at the Porterville College. We're also offering congregate shelter with American Red Cross at that location. Beginning tomorrow at noon, as Chief shared with all of us, you can stop at Station 6 at the Tulare County Fire Station 6 and pick up cleaning kits and also fire kits that have been provided by American Red Cross, and they've been a great partner during this incident. We're also going to have safety tips available as well as you return to your home after a fire, so we encourage you to stop by and get any assistance that you may need there at the station. I also wanted to touch on our wildfire impact hotline that Chief spoke about at the 559-802-9790. That is open Monday through Friday, and that is from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then on the weekends from 10 to 3. And I wanted to let you all know this evening that we are going to be working closely with our partners at the Tulare County Fire Department over the next few days and really look at those damage assessments, and we are going to give you our commitment that we are going to work very hard to get the latest information for all of you. We understand that we've had multiple phone calls, and at this time we do not have the updated information, but our commitment to you is that we're going to work on that over the next few days. And as you call, if we do not have the current information, we will be asking for you to leave your information, and we will make sure to return your call. So we want to thank you for your patience during this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Appreciate that. And to finish us off, we have our incident commander for our Incident Command Team 5, Rick Young.
Thanks, Nate. So as Nate said at the beginning of this, we're very pleased to be able to announce we got 65% containment tonight. That's a significant increase in the last week, and it represents a lot of hard work by some very weary firefighters that are nearing the end of a very long fire season. But make no mistake, with over 200 miles of fire perimeter out there, there's still a lot of work to do. So I ask for your continued patience. Last week has been a pretty tough week around here. We've had numerous firefighter injuries, a couple significant. I'm happy to announce that all but one have been released from the hospital and returned home for continued rest and care, and the remaining firefighter we will continue to advocate for to ensure they get the very highest care. We begin a transition this week. We'll be transitioning Thursday morning to a Type 2 incident management organization. We already started discussions, so having 4 days to start this is a bit of a luxury, and I'm sure it'll lead to a very smooth and seamless transition. You know, our success hinges on the relationships that we establish and are pre-established when we get here. So we rely heavily on our cooperators. And I really want to once again recognize the Tulare County Fire Department and Tulare County Sheriff's Department for their outstanding communications and assistance. And then finally, on behalf of California Interagency Incident Management Team 5, thank you once again for your support while we've been here and your continued support and patience while we continue to work towards our goal of 100% containment. Be well.
Thank you, Chief. All right, so that concludes the formal portion of our presentation. Next, we're going to go into questions and answer some of those questions that were emailed to us and some ones that were submitted online this evening. First up, we're going to bring up Tulare County Sheriff Sergeant Randy Gunderman with some questions that were submitted for him.
Thank you, Nathan. My name is Sergeant Randy Gunderman with the Tulare County Sheriff's Office. On behalf of Sheriff Mike Boudreau and the men and women of the Tulare County Sheriff's Office, I just want to thank the hard work of the firefighters out there on the lines. They've done an outstanding job. Furthermore, I'd really like to extend thanks to California Incident Management Team 5. The transparency and level of communication with these guys has been outstanding. I can't thank them enough. As the Chief Norman alluded to, there are some questions regarding when people will be allowed into certain areas of the fire. He kind of touched on that. But one of the questions that was submitted basically concerns how some of these structures and residences will be secured until people can get back into them. Specifically the Sugarloaf Sawmill and Sugarloaf Mountain Park areas. So as you can expect, the Tulare County Sheriff's Office is committed to keeping your property safe. For that reason, we have put roadblocks in place. We are checking people's proof of residency upon entry. We are double staffing those in the evenings, which allows us to have a rove deputy to be able to go in and around these communities and check for people that aren't supposed to be there. Furthermore, we have our resident deputies that are up and around there. They know the area very well. They know who should be there. They know who should not be there. Those guys are also working the incident as well. And additionally, because of the relationships with Team 5 and the Tulare County Sheriff's Office, we were able to reach out to the Forest Service and gain some assistance from Forest Service law enforcement. So those are the steps that we've put in place. I thank you all for your questions and your attention this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sergeant. Appreciate that. Next, we've had some questions for operations, so we're going to bring Ernie back up.
And good evening. So I'll start off here with first question was explain the wrapping you put on the giant sequoias. It's not aluminum foil like I have seen in the comments. So I think, to my knowledge, we did not wrap any of the giant sequoias on this incident, but it did occur on the K&P complex that's just to the north of us. And what that does is that material is reflects some of the radiant heat that comes off of the fire, and it basically helps reduce the temperature at which things will ignite. So it helps eliminate the potential for radiant heat to start a fire. And so with that, when you put that on there, it helps give you that item a better chance at surviving. And to my knowledge, I don't think we had any wrapped on this one here. The fire moved too fast. And then the next question is, what about the SPEES cabin? I don't have specifics on the exact cabins, but we did lose some Forest Service infrastructure that's in that general area of the SPEES Ridge there. I will try to confirm that for you, everybody, and get back to you. And then the next one is asking specific about the Sugarloaf Mountain Park at the back gate by Lions Road, and asking for a little bit more detail. So I believe the area that you're talking about will be up here inside the burn here, and to my knowledge, everything along that area was defended pretty well in this general area out here. The fire did make a pretty big push out here as we started transition. The first few days, the fire was pretty much hung up right here, and then the next day it made a pretty big push out here towards Deer Creek, and then the following day kind of came out here. The fire did spot out below here inside of the, I believe that's the Tobias Creek there, and yeah, in that area we were able to get firefighters in around there, and then like they had a pretty tough firefight that whole time they were down in there in Sugarloaf. So I'll try to get more specific information to you, and thank you.
Thank you, Ernie. Appreciate you answering those questions for folks. Next up, with the last questions that we have of the evening, is going to be Teresa Benson, the Forest Supervisor.
All right, one of the questions that came in that I'm going to answer is there any update on the status of Pack Saddle Sequoia Grove? If not, do you know when and how it might be surveyed? So first of all, we have a giant sequoia specialist that's been working with us on the fire for the last couple of weeks, Garrett Dickman from Yosemite National Park. And what Garrett has been doing is working to try to get into each of the groves to do this kind of assessment. But what he reported to me today, this is when I wish I had Ernie's pointer. They were able to get into the area of Starvation Grove, but it's a really long road to get down into Pack Saddle. Pack Saddle is right down here, and they haven't been able to get into Pack Saddle Grove yet to do the assessment of that grove. We'll be able to get there when the trees along the road are cleared and we can get there safely. And then I got another question from another individual. Please provide update on the Sequoia Grove assessment, and has Deer Creek Grove been assessed? First, I'll address Deer Creek Grove. Deer Creek Grove is right down at the southern end of the fire here. This is actually the southernmost grove of all the groves that occur in the Sierra Nevada. So there's 70 groves. The northernmost grove is on the Tahoe National Forest, quite a ways away. There's just one isolated grove there. And then Deer Creek Grove is quite a ways from any of the other groves. We have not been able to get to Deer Creek Grove, but I found out today that the road going into that grove is now open for fire traffic. And so the plan is to actually go into that area tomorrow to do the assessment. And so lastly, I'll just provide that update on the assessment that we're doing on the groves that were affected. And I'll just tell you that we have been getting information coming in from our resource advisors in the field and from our giant sequoia specialist about the different groves. I won't go through each of them with you tonight. I will tell you that when we get that report completed, we'll be sharing that with the public. We're seeing a variety of different effects. And so some of the groves were affected at low intensity. And some of them were affected at moderate and very high intensity. So we are seeing loss of some of our sequoias, including some of the monarchs. We're also seeing that there are areas that it was more of an underburn where the fire stayed on the forest floor and did not burn the monarchs. And so it's going to take us some time to get that assessment done. And we're going to be dedicated to the next steps that will be taken to address the future needs of those groves. Lastly, the information team here told me that there's a lot of comments coming in during this meeting, thanking all of the firefighters and all of the support staff that help the firefighters be successful on the ground, like Team 5 and a lot of the other support that we get from our employees. And so we just want to thank you for supporting our firefighters and the hard work that they do. Like it was mentioned, the fire season in our area started back in May, really. So we're into our, I think it's about the 7th month. And I know the Forest Service folks, they've had a very long season, and all of the other agencies, local and state agencies, have too. People are feeling quite tired and looking forward to that potential for rain and snow. And so we just thank you for that support, and just really want to let you know that we care a lot about you too and your safety. And so we're just excited about the fact that you get to go back to your homes, and we're going to be working on all the next steps that this fire is going to require for it to be safe for you to be able to re-enter the forest area. So thanks so much.
Great. Thank you, Teresa. Appreciate you answering those questions. And those were all the questions we had for this evening. So I want to thank everyone again for joining us. Thank you for your comments. We will relay those to the firefighters tomorrow morning at our briefing and the evening briefing. Again, thank you from Team 5. You guys have a great Sunday evening.